Doug came back and he looked at it and he said, "This is just what I wanted. Who the hell did this?"
In the world of classic Hollywood, where public image was everything, some stars dared to challenge the status quo. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on legendary performers who chose reason over religion, proving that stardom and skepticism could coexist. 1. Katharine Hepburn. "I'm an atheist, and that's it." These words, delivered with Katharine Hepburn's characteristic directness, encapsulated her lifelong stance on religion. Raised in progressive Connecticut by a suffragist mother who regularly engaged priests in intellectual sparring matches, Hepburn developed an early appreciation for independent thinking. Her brief flirtation with Christian Science at Bryn Mawr College ended abruptly after a bout of jaundice, convinced her that medicine trumped prayer. Throughout her illustrious career, she remained steadfast in her convictions, famously walking off the Woman of the Year set when producers attempted to insert a chapel wedding scene to soften her image. Her relationship with Spencer Tracy, despite his devout Catholicism, never swayed her beliefs. When he suggested attending Mass, she countered with invitations to golf, arguing that 18 holes taught more about character than any sermon could. Her philanthropy reflected her values, supporting organizations like Planned Parenthood and the ACLU, believing in tangible action over divine intervention. 2. James Whale. The creator of Frankenstein carried his wartime experiences into his filmmaking, crafting stories that challenged religious orthodoxy. Born in a deeply religious Midlands community, Whale's faith shattered when a minister suggested insufficient prayer caused World War I casualties. His experiences in the trenches convinced him that humanity, not divine forces, authored both creation and destruction. In his groundbreaking 1931 Frankenstein, Whale subtly wove his skepticism into the narrative, using lightning-struck church steeples to symbolize science's triumph over theology. His home, dubbed the Atheists' Aquarium by studio insiders, became a sanctuary for intellectual discourse, where Hollywood's freethinkers debated philosophy over cocktails. 3. Luis Buñuel. Spanish filmmaker Luis Buñuel transformed his Catholic upbringing into surrealist art that challenged religious conventions. From pocketing communion wafers as a mischievous altar boy to declaring, "I'm still an atheist, thank God," Buñuel's journey from devotion to doubt shaped his revolutionary filmmaking style. His Hollywood period produced works that skillfully dissected religious dogma. When censors demanded he tone down religious imagery, he responded by amplifying it, turning sacred symbols into powerful tools for social commentary. His genius lay in maintaining a fascination with religious ritual while rejecting its supernatural foundations. Even in his final years, cigarette trembling in arthritic hands, he maintained his irreverent humor, musing about hypothetical conversations with a deity he never believed in. Through his work, Buñuel demonstrated that questioning faith could coexist with appreciating its cultural significance, creating art that celebrated human complexity while challenging divine authority. 4. Cary Grant. Behind the polished veneer of Hollywood's most debonair leading man lay a complex relationship with faith. Cary Grant masterfully navigated the public's expectations while harboring private doubts. In interviews, he'd artfully deflect religious questions with philosophical musings about cosmic connectivity, but his personal writings revealed deeper skepticism. If churches sold truth, they wouldn't need stained glass. Grant's journey from Bristol's working-class streets, where a drunken father and absent mother left little room for divine comfort, shaped his pragmatic worldview. Studio publicists orchestrated carefully crafted photo opportunities, lighting Hanukkah candles with Barbara Hutton one week, kneeling at Easter services with Betsy Drake the next. Grant later quipped, these were merely wardrobe changes, treating religion as another costume in Hollywood's grand performance. His exploration of consciousness through LSD therapy in the 1950s led to profound experiences of universal connection, yet notably absent was any encounter with a divine overseer. I felt love, not law, he reflected. His charitable acts stemmed from practical empathy rather than religious obligation, famously treating bellhops with the same dignity as studio executives. 5. Greta Garbo. Why should I go to church? They convert silence into noise. Garbo's words to dramatist Sala Varel perfectly encapsulated her spiritual stance. The Swedish-born star's working-class Lutheran upbringing, filled with stern sermons about feminine submission, fostered an early distaste for organized religion. Her fame only deepened this skepticism as she witnessed Hollywood's cynical manipulation of faith for publicity. "Heaven must be a publicity stunt," she noted after watching studio executives trade moral posturing for newspaper coverage. Instead of prayer, Garbo found solace in solitary walks, believing nature's whispers held more truth than any pulpit proclamation. 7 and 8. Jean Harlow and Marilyn Monroe. Hollywood's platinum-haired icons shared more than their signature look. Both harbored deep religious skepticism. Harlow, raised by a Methodist mother who viewed Hollywood as modern-day Sodom, couldn't reconcile her faith after watching a child die, despite fervent prayers. "Why beg a deaf sky?" she confided to friends. Her quiet rebellion manifested in funding contraception clinics and maintaining personal ethics outside religious framework. Monroe's journey from Norma Jean's Christian Science restrictions to outspoken skepticism paralleled her transformation from model to icon. Her marriage to Arthur Miller, a secular Jewish intellectual, provided space for philosophical exploration. Late-night recordings reveal her candid thoughts. "I don't think there's anyone listening upstairs." She approached mandated religious photo ops with characteristic wit, joking about praying for better lighting. The star's tragic early deaths sparked sanctimonious tabloid speculation about divine punishment, missing the complex human struggles beneath the glamour. Their legacies remind us that questioning faith often requires more courage than accepting it, especially under Hollywood's unforgiving spotlight. These icons of cinema's golden age demonstrated that authentic living meant following one's own moral compass, regardless of societal pressure or studio expectations. Their quiet resistance to religious conformity, expressed through actions rather than proclamations, helped pave the way for future generations of freethinkers in entertainment. 9. Orson Welles. Welles approached religion with the same analytical eye he brought to filmmaking. At just 15, his reading of The Golden Bough sparked a lifelong fascination with mythology as humanity's grandest performance. His masterpiece, Citizen Kane, crystallized this perspective, portraying power as the true deity of modern times. In his correspondence with author Peter Varel, Welles didn't hesitate to compare televangelists to stage magicians, though he noted wryly that at least magicians admitted their craft. During World War II, he cleverly wove humanist messages into his radio broadcasts, much to the clergy's dismay. "I prefer Shakespeare, that's real scripture," he would tell his inner circle, highlighting his reverence for human creativity over divine revelation. 10. Clark Gable. Despite his Midwestern roots, Gable's faith evaporated after losing Carole Lombard in a tragic plane crash. When priests spoke of divine plans, he famously retorted, "Any god with such a flight plan is no friend of mine." He transformed his grief into quiet defiance, replacing church attendance with solitary hunting trips and refusing MGM's suggested publicity baptism before Mogambo. His wartime service reinforced his humanist leanings, finding more truth in battlefield camaraderie than in crusading rhetoric. Later years on his Nevada ranch became forums for philosophical discussions about mortality, leading to his characteristically straightforward conclusion, "I'll go where the dust goes." 11. Howard Hawks. Hawks approached skepticism with an engineer's precision, viewing religion as waste of good building materials. His practical mindset shaped films like Only Angels Have Wings, where he deliberately cut religious references, insisting that real pilots trusted instruments, not divine intervention. During Poker Nights, Hawks would argue that religion merely provided alibis for the fearful, yet he respected moral codes born of human experience rather than heavenly decree. His Sunday film shoots became legendary, as did his quip that eternity costs over time. When censors challenged Scarface for its violence, Hawks maintained that authentic consequences taught more than any sermon. 12. Mae West. Mae West turned religious criticism into an art form, wielding wit as her weapon against dogma. While she explored various spiritual practices, from seances to reincarnation, she maintained a skeptic's distance, famously declaring, "The 10 Commandments were written without my consultation." Her theatrical defiance extended to censorship battles, where she threatened to broadcast Bible's raciest verses when ordered to tone down her scripts. West's philanthropy focused on tangible results, supporting orphanages while quipping that Earthly velvet trumps heavenly streets of gold. In her later Vegas performances, she delighted audiences and infuriated religious leaders with satirical sketches, including a memorable portrayal of Eve suing God for rib theft. Her suggested epitaph captured her lifelong stance. She'd done life her way and never apologized to heaven. Through their actions and art, these Hollywood legends demonstrated that questioning faith could coexist with creating lasting cultural impact. Their quiet resistance to religious conformity helped pave the way for future generations of freethinkers in entertainment, proving that authentic living meant following one's own moral compass, regardless of societal pressure or studio expectations. 13. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin's relationship with faith began with laughter, quite literally. Expelled from a London workhouse chapel for disrupting hymns with his infectious giggles, he set the tone for a lifetime of questioning religious authority. The little tramp, it seemed, bowed only to the divine comedy of human existence. His skepticism wasn't merely rebellious, it was deeply philosophical. Chaplin immersed himself in the works of Spinoza and Ingersoll, carefully marking passages that challenged supernatural authority. Yet, unlike many atheists of his era, he didn't reject morality. He reimagined it. For Chaplin, compassion wasn't a gift from above, but a human invention, precious precisely because we created it ourselves. During the McCarthy era, his refusal to swear on the Bible spoke volumes. Instead, he offered his honor as a comedian, a statement that perfectly encapsulated his belief that truth could be found in human authenticity rather than divine decree. His masterpiece, The Great Dictator, culminates in a speech that deliberately appeals to humanity's better nature, not God's will. 14. George Cukor. George Cukor transformed his mansion into what friends affectionately called the Temple of Good Talk. His famous Sunday salons served wit and wine instead of communion, creating a secular sanctuary where Hollywood's brightest minds could gather without pretense of piety. His journey from Hungarian Jewish roots to secular humanism was shaped by witnessing anti-Semitic quotas in college. Rather than seek solace in faith, he found purpose in art. Cukor's adaptation of theatrical works replaced religious ceremony with dramatic truth, arguing that authentic human emotion needed no divine endorsement. His quiet rebellion extended to his craft, regularly trimming obligatory religious references from scripts with the argument that sincerity can't be manufactured on a sound stage. His legacy of funding Los Angeles libraries reflected his belief that knowledge, not faith, was humanity's true salvation. 15. George Sanders. George Sanders wielded his sardonic baritone like a weapon against religious orthodoxy. "If God created me," he famously quipped, "he owes me royalties." His memoir, Memoirs of a Professional Cad, didn't just hint at disbelief. It proclaimed it with characteristic wit and unflinching honesty. 16. Erich von Stroheim. Born to Jewish parents but claiming aristocratic Catholic roots, found his true religion behind the camera. His provocative naming of a pet monkey, Jehovah, was just the beginning. On set, he pushed boundaries relentlessly, crafting scenes that challenged religious sensibilities and refusing to bow to studio pressure for morally appropriate content. Von Stroheim's masterpiece Greed opened with a preacher's voice drowned out by carnival barkers, a metaphor for his view of religion's place in modern society. His obsessive pursuit of artistic truth, often at the expense of commercial success, reflected a devotion to human creativity over divine inspiration. 17. Dalton Trumbo, the blacklisted blasphemer. Dalton Trumbo's Colorado childhood, steeped in hellfire sermons, sparked a lifelong aversion to religious authority. By the time he reached Hollywood, he had traded scripture for Marx and Twain, boldly declaring that religion was the original blacklist. His confrontation with HUAC became legendary not just for his political stance, but for his pointed invocation of the First Amendment rather than any divine protection. During his imprisonment, Trumbo's letters home became masterclasses in secular humanism, skewering prison chaplains who preached acceptance while ignoring systematic brutality. His resistance to both religious and political orthodoxy came from the same well of principle, a belief that human dignity required no supernatural justification. Through their art and lives, these Hollywood legends demonstrated that questioning faith could lead to profound artistic truth. Their legacy reminds us that the greatest stories often come not from divine inspiration, but from the complex, beautiful, and sometimes tragic experience of being human. 18 and 19, Wilder and Hecht, Comedy as Cosmic Truth. Billy Wilder. Austria crediting forged papers and quick wit, not guardian angels. In Hollywood, he transformed religious skepticism into satirical gold. When confronted by nuns protesting "some like it hot's" cross-dressing scenes, he delivered his immortal retort: "If your God lacks humor, you picked the wrong deity." At Writers Guild gatherings, Wilder would compare religious commandments to studio notes, arguing both failed to grasp human complexity. Though he honored his Jewish heritage by lighting yahrzeit candles, he did so for memory, not miracle. His epitaph, "I'm a writer, but then nobody's perfect," encapsulated his view that salvation lay in a good laugh before the final curtain. Ben Hecht brought journalistic skepticism to spiritual matters. Having witnessed corruption in church-run charities during his Chicago newspaper days, he developed a healthy distrust of institutional piety. Though he celebrated Jewish culture, he famously declared, "I abandon God the way a grown man abandons Santa." 20 and 21, Sturges and McCarey. Preston Sturges built screwball temples where destiny bowed to coincidence. His masterpiece, The Miracle of Morgan's Creek, so cleverly spoofed virgin birth narratives that censors barely noticed the heresy beneath the humor. He kept Thomas Paine's works on his desk, calling them backup dialogue for life's great questions. Despite financial ruin in France, Sturges maintained his irreverent wit, writing, "God could have helped, but he doesn't speak French." Yet, his skepticism never dampened his humanity. He anonymously funded hospital bills for struggling crew members, proving that generosity needs no divine mandate. Leo McCarey's journey from Catholic storyteller to gentle agnostic reflected Hollywood's evolving spiritual consciousness. Though his early works like Going My Way celebrated religious themes, he grew increasingly disillusioned with the church's opposition to the labor unions he passionately supported. By the 1950s, his letters revealed a man moving from certainty toward questioning. He found clearer conscience on golf courses than in confessionals, and his later films, particularly An Affair to Remember, replaced divine intervention with human perseverance. Though he never publicly renounced his faith, his artistic evolution traced a path from religious certainty to philosophical openness, mirroring Hollywood's own complex relationship with belief. These filmmakers proved that artistic truth could flourish without supernatural foundation, creating works that celebrated human resilience, humor, and complexity in a universe where meaning comes from within, not above. 22. MGM's Titans. Irving Thalberg embodied Hollywood's shift from divine guidance to box office prophecy. Before turning 30, he transformed MGM with ruthless efficiency, viewing prayer breakfasts as productivity pitfalls rather than spiritual necessities. Though nominally Jewish, Thalberg saw religion as mere spectacle, inferior even to the illusions crafted on his sound stages. His approach to biblical epics was purely pragmatic. If Moses wants screen time, he needs to earn his percentage points. Even facing mortality with a weakening heart, he rejected rabbinical comfort, telling wife Norma Shearer that memories held more truth than myths. His 1937 death at age 37 proved that even Hollywood's golden boys couldn't negotiate with fate. 23. Harry Cohn. Harry Cohn ruled Columbia Pictures with an iron fist and a devil-may-care attitude toward divine authority. His private phone line reached every set, but he famously refused to build a studio chapel, declaring, "God doesn't greenlight pictures, I do." When censors challenged Babyface, he offered them a choice between bribes and prayers, knowing which carried more weight at the box office. His philanthropy toward orphanages sparked debate. Cynics cited tax benefits, while loyalists saw conscience at work. Red Skelton's quip at Cohn's 1958 funeral captured his essence perfectly. "Give him time, he'll take over hell in a week." The massive attendance spoke volumes, though some whispered they came just to confirm his departure. True to form, no angel signed the guest book. 24. Samuel Goldwyn. Samuel Goldwyn's famous Goldwynisms extended to his religious skepticism. When a priest pitched a biblical epic, Goldwyn's response was characteristically direct. If God wants producing, let him bring a budget. His immigrant experience taught him to trust hustle over heaven, though he shrewdly used Jewish holidays for networking opportunities. His true religion was pragmatism, endowing hospitals while arguing that health trumped hymns, and maintaining that moral messages dampened ticket sales. Asked in his 80s about Judgment Day, he responded with trademark wit, "I'll negotiate." His legacy proved that success in Hollywood required faith not in divine intervention, but in the power of determination and deal-making. 25. Cecil B. DeMille. Cecil B. DeMille mastered the art of religious spectacle while privately questioning its foundations. His epic biblical productions led many to assume deep faith, but crew members knew better. During the Ten Commandments filming, he'd critique the burning bush effect with jokes about God needing better lighting directors. In private memos, he drew pointed parallels between divine tablets and studio contracts, both stone cold, both routinely broken. When clergy demanded historical accuracy, DeMille's response revealed his true priorities. "I'm in the business of belief, not archaeology." He viewed miracles as narrative devices, appreciating religion's genius as the original entertainment franchise. His office, adorned with a pharaoh statuette rather than a crucifix, spoke volumes about his values. DeMille's final moments, spent editing the Ten Commandments re-release, proved fitting. His last contribution to cinema merged thunder, lightning, and human awe into a trinity of pure spectacle, divinity optional. These titans of early Hollywood shaped not just the film industry, but our cultural relationship with faith itself. Their legacy reminds us that true power lies not in divine intervention, but in human creativity, determination, and the courage to question established beliefs.